Lucio family on the loss of their patriot father. We ask for comfort angels for not only our senator, but all of the family, Lord. They are knowing 100% where their father, grandfather, great-grandfather has gone. We pray today for the agenda, for the needs of each department. I want to particularly pray for our health department and our veterans department. Lord, we have so many needs in Cameron County. One of the purposes that I stand before you is for the needs of the people. So Lord, as you know these needs better than I do, I ask for the provisions for the health department, for the veterans, particularly the veterans of this unpopular war that we're going through now. We're going to have lots and lots of needs down the road. So we pray for those needs before they come about, so that the provisions and the plans and the order of help will be available to them. And I do pray for the need of the Veterans Hospital here in the Valley. Lord, we pray for the prosperity of our county. We pray for the continued growth of our county. We pray for the schools and the teachers of this county, that they will not only educate, but help each and every student and go beyond their teaching gifts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Also, I'd like to extend our condolences to the Gutierrez family for their loss on Mr. Ruben Gutierrez, worked for the Brownsville Police Department.
Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did you mention? Yes. And then the Gutierrez family. This week, I think the grocery is tomorrow, Wednesday, last funeral, and we're doing a funeral, that's a funeral, and the funeral's on Thursday. It was just a really great man, I had met him many times over the years, and he was not only a good citizen, but he worked for us for many years as a jailer, and he was a veteran of World War II. And his dad tells me, his brother tells me he was a good golfer too. He stopped playing golf, he said, because he didn't want to take people's money anymore.
They have special golf DNA in that family.
That's right. I was raised about a block away from his family, and he was very strict but a very nice man, because every time I'd come to the courthouse to buy my license plates, there was about 100 people there. He'd say, "Come here, put me in the bag and sell me the fire machine and sell me the license plate without having to wait a long time." There's a family. My mother's brother was married to his sister. That's how we kind of like know each other. They're married to
The great patriarch of that family, and he will be missed. We will be with the family. Okay, let me, I don't know if the Villarreal family is here already. Yes? Okay, great. I was reading in the paper about an article about the family. If y'all could come up, this is the family.
saw that movie, Saving Private Ryan, a number of years ago about the three brothers that had died in World War II. And you always wondered whether or not so many members of the same family could go and fight in war at the same time and serve our nation. And this happened in Cameron County a number of years ago. And especially you think about it today because you see we're in the middle of a war today, and the soldiers from the Rio Grande Valley, the citizens of the Rio Grande Valley have stepped up and are serving their nation today like no other place in the world. We've lost over 20 soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, and that makes up for a little bit less than 1% of the total population. The total number of casualties in Iraq, even though we make up less than 1/3 of 1% of the population in the United States, which means that we're doing 3 times the national average. And so, and all our National Guard unit, all our reserve unit is serving already today in Iraq and Afghanistan. And this tradition of patriotism and willingness to serve our great country by soldiers from the Rio Grande Valley is not a recent something that we have seen here since World War II, where our soldiers from all over the Rio Grande Valley decided to enlist during World War II, the moment that Pearl Harbor was bombed, and as soon as they turned 18 after that, and go serve. And this is one family that made a decision to serve together because they felt that this was important for their nation, for their families, for their community. So when I read that, I said we have to honor them because they have not been honored. And I know they've been honored by their service to their country, and I know they've been honored by their family, their friends. But the county needs to sing their praises as well. Something that's very, very important. Let me read this resolution. Consideration and adoption of resolution honoring Mr. George M. Villarreal, Mr. Alberto Villarreal, Mr. Frank Villarreal, Mr. Juan Villarreal, Mr. Cristiano Villarreal, and Mr. Robert Mendoza, handed down as Villarreal Mendoza, for their outstanding patriotism. Whereas Mr. George Villarreal, M. Villarreal, Mr. Alberto Villarreal, Mr. Frank Villarreal, Mr. Juan Villarreal, Mr. Crisanto Villarreal, and Mr. Robert Mendoza are natives of Cameron County, in the beautiful city of San Diego. And whereas all 6 of the Villarreal brothers answered our country's call to serving in the United States Armed Forces for the duration of that conflict and for 2 years thereafter. And whereas each of the Villarreal brothers served with honor and distinction, demonstrating courage and loyalty to their comrades in the face of dangerous circumstances on the battlefield. And whereas the Villarreal brothers, who became known as the San Benito Six, brought great distinction to Cameron County and the city of San Benito through their honorable and selfless service, even drawing the attention of President Harry. And whereas after the war, the brothers demonstrated the admirable religious faith that guided them through their service by making them pilgrimage to the shrine of the Virgen de Guadalupe with their mother in thanks for the safe return of all the brothers. And whereas in civilian life, the brothers continued a strong family values and dedication to helping others that are reflected in their fraternal bond during successful careers and marriages. And whereas the Cameron County Commissioners Court wishes to honor Mr. George Villarreal, Mr. Alberto Villarreal, Mr. Frank Villarreal, Mr. Juan Villarreal, Mr. Crisanto Villarreal, and Mr. Robert Mendoza for their outstanding patriotism. Now therefore be it resolved that the Cameron County Commissioners Court hereby honors Mr. George M. Villarreal, Mr. Albert Villarreal, Mr. Alberto Villarreal, Mr. Frank Villarreal, Mr. Juan Villarreal, Mr. Crisanto Villarreal, and Mr. Robert Mendoza for their outstanding patriotism. Approved this 29th day of August 2006, signed unanimously by the Cameron County Commissioners Court. together to the Virgen?
Just to
the shrine.
The shrine
To the Virgen de San Juan?
de Guadalupe.
I recognize where they were at that day, okay?
Which one is your father?
My father is right here in the back.
And your grandmother's the one in the back?
Yes. I'm so proud.
They were having a good time.
We need to get a copy of this so that we can post it with the resolution in front of the central jury room with that to show a little bit of history on that, because I think people need to see that. I mean, I know we were talking last night, ironically, I was talking last night to my mom, we were coming back from Austin, and she was telling me about how when my uncle came back from World War II, then my grandmother took him to La Virgen de Guadalupe because she had made a promesa. And that's exactly what your grandmother did, right?
And she got a plaque from Harry Estrum with all their names around it with a presidential seal in the middle.
You don't know where it is.
But there's gotta be a record of that.
Somebody has it hidden, okay.
One of your
No one showed.
relatives? And is that the only uncle still living?
That's the only one.
And his name is,
Okay.
and he's the youngest, or what's his name?
No, he's third of the boys, he's the third.
And your dad was
The oldest.
the oldest?
Alberto, Francisco, Juan, Jorge, and Di Santo and Roy.
And where did they serve?
Well, two of them were in the Pacific, two were in Europe, and two stayed behind. They couldn't send them all to the war theater at the same time. Because of the 6 brothers that got killed in the Navy, they were all in the same ship, and they all got killed. So after that, they didn't send them all to the war.
But they sent 4 of them.
4 of them went, yes.
Incredible. Okay, thank you, Mr. Villarreal. Presentation of resolution recognizing Mr. Antonio Briceño for his lifetime of achievement. And I'd ask Tony to come up. I've known Tony over 20 years, and he was a lot thinner than me. But I didn't really get to know Tony until about, let's see, I'd say it was about 16 years ago when I heard him sing the Messiah, the Handel's Messiah, at the cathedral here in downtown. They used to have the singing of the Messiah every year. And I think it was if I'm not wrong, it was some of the high schools would participate in choirs, and there's a solo section that is sang in the Messiah. It's a beautiful, beautiful song that Handel wrote, and when he gets up and he sings that portion of it, it's just absolutely beautiful. And so it really reached down in your soul, and you were sitting there listening to that music. And he has a history for many years of having worked with our youth in a variety of areas dealing with music, from choirs to mariachi band, to getting kids involved at the university and at the high school with music. And he's really one of our unsung heroes. I mean, he's been doing this for so many years and has not been recognized, I believe, the way he should have been recognized a long, long time ago. And so we were talking about him the other day because this issue about the music came up, because I really love Messiah, and I just was commenting that we don't see it happening. I don't think they're doing it anymore. And we really need to
Stopped last year.
be doing it because it's such a beautiful song, and especially at the cathedral, if you do it at the cathedral where it's so beautiful there, it has an impact upon you during that time of Christmas, and we're just thinking about gifts and we forget what it's all about. And you listen to the song, especially the way Tony sings it, you realize that it's much, much, much more than just gifts.
Judge, do we have the rest of the family
Yeah, we have
members?
his sister here.
Yes, I think they need to come up here.
Unfortunately, most of my family is educators and they're working right now.
Come up
Retired, since you-
Mr. Briseño, we were in school together, and I've heard you sing many times, and yeah, I think you sang with my brothers once.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, you got a beautiful voice. I'm not comparing my brothers to yours because you're way ahead of the game. But, I'd like to hear you sing something, Mr. Briseño.
Let me read the resolution.
I think that the reason that I wanted him to hear something is because after you hear his voice, you're really, really gonna appreciate what you're going to say there.
And I really think the judge could have picked a better choice of words than unsung heroes. I was commenting to my sister, after hearing the first resolution, I kind of, what an act to follow, that is truly an act of heroism, and I thank you very much, but, well, it's a hard act to follow. Maybe I'll sing something in their honor.
Well, but you save a lot of young people, and I know that for a fact.
Thank
You
you.
not only teach them music, but you teach them about life and about values.
Thank you very much.
Well, let me read the resolution, and while I'm reading it, maybe he can think of something that he can sing for us. Consideration and adoption of resolution recognizing Mr. Antonio Briseño for his lifetime of achievement, whereas Mr. Antonio Briseño is a native of Cameron County, having been born and raised in the city of Brownsville, and whereas in addition to being a renowned performer, Mr. Briseño is also noteworthy for his educational achievement, which is reflected in his development of a unique vocal technique, and whereas Mr. Briseño's talents as a singer are widely recognized and have led to his participation in such varied performances as the Robert Shaw Festival Choir at Carnegie Hall, and the premiere of composer David Patterson's new compositions, and whereas Mr. Briseño is one of our area's foremost cultural ambassadors, having reflected positively on the Rio Grande Valley at concert performances in Europe and Asia, as well as across the United States and Mexico, and whereas many people also know Mr. Briseño as the founder of Mariachi Escorpion, the famed performing group from the University of Texas at Brownsville that represents our county across the country and across the globe. And whereas in addition to his role in the founding of Mariachi Escorpion, Mr. Briseño has also created Mariachi Femenil, which promotes the participation of women in the traditional mariachi and chavo arts forms. And whereas Mr. Briseño is also deeply dedicated to the preservation of traditional Mexican and Hispanic music and dances, a commitment that is reflected in his many academic and musical successes. And whereas the Cameron County Commissioners Court wishes to recognize Mr. Antonio Briseño for his lifetime of achievement, now therefore be it resolved that the Cameron County Commissioners Court hereby recognizes Mr. Antonio Briseño for his lifetime of achievement. Approved unanimously this 22nd day of August.
Sing a real short version of song dedicated to the
Can I say something, please?
Yes.
I always have to say something.
Good for
But
you.
we certainly appreciate the Lucio family and now the Villarreal family, because we are, my grandparents, my parents were in the same age group that they were, and we appreciate them just as much. And we also have, our family has tradition of the armed services started with my father and all my uncles and my brother and one of my nephews and a niece, one in the Gulf Storm War, and the other one in Vietnam. So we appreciate this service, and especially from the Villarreal family. And that's why Tony was saying mine is trivial compared to that.
But it's not.
But we appreciate them too.
This goes, look at that. Let me see, I don't get on the right keys. My country is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of the
from every mountain side. Let freedom breathe. Thank you for doing that.
Wow, that they can hear you sing that again. Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Judge, we'd like to ask you to jump, well, if possible, Mr. Bob.
Consideration in 12?
Yes, sir.
Consideration authorization of transfer of parked vehicles for the use of the senior teens center and consideration of discussion of budget.
I'm sorry that there was a little mix-up today. I understand that maybe you have two 12 o'clock meetings.
I will be there at yours first.
Okay, wonderful. The teen and senior center has come along, and we do have a couple of things that the building needs to be attended to. I didn't have a chance to talk to Javier, but there's one back door that's warped and won't close properly. And then there was a compressor go out and caused the Head Start to stop for a few days and send the children elsewhere. I believe they had 78 children sign up in a 2-week period, and we've had 42 students sign up, and we had our first class on Thursday. We'll have our second class today. The BISD participation has given us all new computers, all new computer tables, 25 classroom desks and seating, all new, and everything is ready to go today.
And also the teachers, I understand.
Yes, we do. We have 2 teachers that they've furnished and an afternoon custodian. Whether or not that would eliminate the need, I don't know. But at least we will have an afternoon custodian courtesy of BISD also. We're hoping that Dr. Gully will get over her fall and be with us. She's a former principal of several schools here in Brownsville, most recently at Hannah last year as principal. She signed on with her master's degree in home ec to take care of our kitchen and our home ec programs, which will start shortly. We have 3 programs right now. We have English as a second language, we have GED classes, and we have citizenship classes. And we will be adding right away several other classes. So I do fall in line with Judge Gilbert and Pete, remembering when you called me in 2002 to get this ball rolling, and now the ball is rolling and great things are being done. How great, we really don't know, and maybe our ancestors will know, but we're not putting Band-Aids on any sores. We're trying to get to the young people and to the adult seniors that need help in Cameron County. And that's what we strive to do. One of the things that my wife has been after me to do, since we have 2 automobiles, but both of them have been used as pickups and hauling things around the county and bringing in things. By the way, we do have a food bank already started, and it's been well received. We had 3 trailers of food come in last week. And John Durden has given us a warehouse on 14th where we can just bring small amounts over at a time to give out to the people in those 21 colonias. And elsewhere in Cameron County, we have no restrictions. We are planning 1 night class also in English as a second language, since it came through with so much enthusiasm. We do need a little bit of help from the Commissioners Court in getting started. Our first grant, by the way, we have gotten a hold of a grant company in Houston, Texas. And it was through the Parks Department. Joe Vega recommended them, and then the mayor and city manager of South Padre Island said they're great. We just renewed their contract, and they will be writing grants for us. So I hope not to ever have to tip into the budget or into the till of Cameron County. I hope it's reverse. I hope that one of the first grants we can write is for $300,000+ to get that necessary dining room, meeting room in the back put together. But we do have a administrator who's also a BISD board member who's been working with me for about a year now. We were both out there yesterday on Labor Day. We were just about living there almost between the two of us. But we have a schedule of $63,400 for 3 salaries. I want to put on a young man that I've known for 30 years that is a former Boys and Girls Club director and also Parks director for the city of Brownsville for many years, because we see the enthusiasm and the use of Brownie Park, tremendous. 100+ cars every night. 7 nights a week, you can go out there at 8 o'clock and see all those cars parked out there. People walking, people playing baseball, exercising, not just watching TV and getting fat. So it's wonderful to see the enthusiasm out there. But we are going to need a director to help our administrator in the form of planning the use of the different facilities there at Brownie Park. And we also need, as Judge Gilbert has recommended, I go over and see the good folks at Cameron Works, which I did, and it's the #1 slot for October 1st to get a receptionist put on for 6 months to start us out there, which can also be used by the other entities because people walk in all 4 doors. We never know whether they're coming in for Head Start or we're coming in for WIC, but we want to try to work together as much as possible. In fact, Head Start has asked us, they first asked us for one of the classrooms for their adult programs. Now they've asked us to do their adult programs. So we're going to be doing more and more classroom participation with Head Start and hopefully also with WIC. So that's the only thing I have to say. We are opening officially at 12 noon today. I would hope that all of you can make it out there. We are very happy with all the things that have been given to us. We have, I guess we have an inventory of over 150,000 right now that has been given to us, mostly everything new. And the carpentry department of Cameron County redid the 4 sofas that the Reality House had given me, and they just look beautiful. Every lady that walks in there, they just can't say enough about the 4 beautiful sofas that have been redone. The walnut wood is precious and very well constructed. Thank you very much, Judge, for your vision and your understanding of the needs of the people of Cameron County, and you too, Pete. Thank you very much.
Today at 12,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, this is a commission effort, and the commission has always supported these kinds of projects. And they work together on it, from here to La Paloma to Laguna Heights. I mean, we really believe in programs for kids. It's really where we need to make our investment. It's one of these, pay now or you pay later. We very much believe that.
and you're right, Judge. I'd like to thank the Commissioners Court, Edna and David and John and yourself, because we've worked very closely together with this, and I don't think that the past 3 to 4 years that we've been here, there has been one objection to this program, and everyone has been very cooperative, and I really appreciate you, all of you, the Commissioners Court, for helping out. And as you can see, we always have a little, people actually gonna go to this park or this things, it's packed,
But they need to take care of that park. We need, I don't know where we're at from the last time I went over there, but we needed some work on that park. I hope that we did take care of. I'll go by there today.
Either today, so we're gonna finish before 12, Judge.
I called a bunch of people, but,
So what's the request?
Yeah. Javier has a...
Transfer a vehicle to the city?
It's about...
A used vehicle, whatever truck.
Do you know about this, Javier?
I knew about it, but I didn't know the vehicle was coming out of our program.
look, let's do this. Let me talk to Lee, see what he's got, and I'll get a specific, vehicle that he's got available, and then I'll deal with Javier on this thing, and we'll bring it back on this issue, okay?
And maybe an idea of what...
They had a truck, but the motor was burned, so.
Well, but Lee works miracles when he needs to. Okay, can we just have a motion to table for 1 week on this until we
So
get
moved.
second vehicle lined up? Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. But we're gonna have to probably come to you on the budget because it's gonna be part of the park system, right? Yes.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, as to where it was gonna be
It
situated.
isn't an answer.
Also,
It's a
that's
question.
actually the legality, since it's not a county department, of actually having somebody else drive this vehicle.
Well, ultimately, we need to figure out where that's gonna be at. Okay, we need to work on the structure to make sure that, it's.
And as to who can drive it,
And what's the use of the vehicle? I mean, identify the use.
Can you, a nonprofit, perhaps we could just transfer to them and let it be their vehicle?
There's an issue, constitutional issue that we've got to look at. My understanding is there's supposed to be a contract with them.
Well, that
We need to
can
look
be
at that.
done because they are providing a service for the county by providing the services they provide. We already have a contract with them.
Can we work on that, Mr.
We're
Burns?
gonna
Yes, we can.
You get together with
I'll get something in return.
Javier and work out the details. Remind me, Remy, to talk to Lee to find out what he's got, and let's bring it back next week to see how
We probably need to firm up a relationship with them.
Yeah, and maybe we need to do a little agreement now, formal.
They're occupying our facilities and
Otherwise, that senior citizen, that teen center doesn't have an operations component to it. And if it doesn't, then we ultimately, it has to come out of our budget. So if they're providing that operations component to it right now, then that's good for us, and we might as well take advantage of that. And we need to put something into that as well. It's a good program. See?
And they've taken ownerships.
Yes. And that's the kind of stuff we need to do, all right? Did we vote?
yes.
Yes.
4. Any other item out of order that we need to take up? See, or no? Presentation of 2005 audited financial statements. Mr. Carlos Barrera? That you?
It is, we apologize for the untimeliness of this particular item. Generally, it's done much earlier in the process. But we know that this is the first year that we've had the audit committee, and the audit committee playing its role in the process. And so, in determining who ultimately would bring this to the Commissioners Court, it was determined that the audit committee would, and so we put it on the agenda as soon as we could get everybody in place. The packet, Mark, the auditor, has prepared the financial report, and it's already been discussed, I think, in other meetings, asked certain aspects of it, particularly the fund balance and how the court was going to address that. But what I don't think the Commissioner's Court has had presented to it is the independent auditor's reports and his advisory comments. And one of the issues that the audit committee wanted to do was to make sure that those questions that were raised by the independent auditor got addressed by the various departments that were responsible for those questions. And so I think Mr. Barrera will be able to come before you to at least explain what those questions were and how they ultimately were satisfactorily addressed, because it's my understanding that they have been brought to successful conclusion.
I was kind of under the impression that the audit committee would not only help assist in getting everything put together that needed to be put together so the outside auditor could do the audit, but also maybe help speed up that process. Hopefully this is just a learning curve and it can be a little more timely.
Yeah, I think as far as the actual interaction on the information that the independent auditor was looking for, we did facilitate that. It was a matter, in fact, the Commissioners Court received their financial statements, I think, some months back from Mark. He handed them directly to you, which is where we kind of lost the sight of how it was supposed to be presented to the court. And then it wasn't until somebody said, well, we still haven't presented to the court, and Mark said, well, it's the audit committee's responsibility, and we were like, well, we've never done it before.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me like there was a whole lot of months back. There was a few, maybe. It was too, but, this is 11 months into the year now.
That's just like almost the beginning of the next item.
Yes, so, it's just,
And as I mentioned, one of the major issues that was raised was the status of the fund balances, but that was addressed through Commissioner's Court action. So, I mean, some of the issues that are raised in this document, or at least it's what it shows us, the state of the county is, the court's already taken action.
Can you refresh my memory in regards to who is on the audit committee?
Serving on the audit committee are the sheriff, a representative from the district attorney's office, David Gonzalez currently sits on his behalf, Ms. Yvette Salinas from the health department, myself, and the budget officer, Javier Medial.
Has the committee met to approve this report
Yes.
after it was given to us?
Yes. They,
Mark is shaking his head back there.
I mean, when was the last time the committee met?
the last time the committee met was when it was presented, when the financial statements were presented to them, and the auditors, the independent auditors' comments were presented to them.
So that's when you got the report, basically.
That's when we received the report.
the independent auditors minutes, memo here, letter to us is June 14th.
It was after June 14th, yes.
But after that, I think when we got the timeliness, I think is
Well,
what.
yeah, no, well, actually, I'd have to really search my memory banks to find out when this packet was left for the judge. I assume that the rest of the Commissioner's Court had received a copy of it simultaneously, which was sometime after March. Usually it's supposed to be ready by March. Mark would be able to more fully describe when he...
Well, what's the role of the audit committee then? I don't remember exactly how we went into the audit committee process.
The audit committee was recommended by the independent auditor to act as a conduit between the independent auditor and the county as it was reviewing the books of the auditor, or as it was going over the county's accounts. And whenever issues or questions were raised, they should have been brought to the audit committee, and there were certain issues that were brought to our attention. We discussed them, and we did our best to make the connections between the right department so that the information would move. I mean, there was no obstructions or obstacles that at least we were aware of. I mean, the process seemed to work pretty smoothly from the statements that the independent auditor was making. We thought that it went well. We didn't meet unless there was an issue, and really we met I think 3 or 4 times to just discuss the status of their progress and what areas they were focusing on, why they were focusing on, and what their intentions to do in the future on other departments. And both those individuals, I believe, are here that can address any specific concerns about the financial report or the independent audit itself.
Are you going to go over the questions, or are you going to address those questions that they brought forth? I know some of them were solved through.
On the findings
Right.
and the recommendations regarding the reissuance of the bonds, I'd actually, if I could refer to the independent auditor so that he can address them, and that way he can answer them as he goes through them. That's okay, Carlos, I'm sorry, I don't mean to throw
Does the audit committee have any recommendation to this commissioner's court?
the audit committee?
Right.
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
We will. He's telling me, all that we're going to be recommending. Okay.
Members of the court, this was a learning year, and we met with the audit committee, and I will say that with considering that I work with a lot of municipalities and government entities, this audit committee did meet 4 times, and the purpose of the audit committee was going back to Sarbanes-Oxley, where audit committees in effect were recommended by outside auditors, so that we would be able to communicate better effectively, I guess, with all of you, and as well as giving the audit committee a little bit more teeth with respect to taking control of and responsibility for the financial statements as a whole. That was the purpose of it. Needless to say, this entity is a little bit bigger than most municipalities. And so the audit committee has gelled, but it's taken some time. But we have met. We met during the course of the audit, prior to the audit, during the course of the audit. I think we finished our report sometime before the end of March. It was given to Mr. Yates to go ahead and submit to GFOA for certification. We met thereafter, but in the process, we had some issues that we had to contend with respect to the single audit side, as well as any management report comments that we must have had. A lot of those got cleared up, and that's really my communication with Mr. Yates. Thereafter, we had one major one that once we zeroed in on that one, we got to go ahead, we went ahead and wrote the report, and then submitted to the audit committee, and said we need to meet again. And that's when we met the third time, actually the fourth time. The third time we met was back early, I guess, May or so, and that's when we actually going through the audit transpired. But the last time we met was, I believe, in July, and that was to go over this one letter comment that we had. Suffice to say very quickly, given again, like Commissioner Wood was saying, we are 11 months into, we're already planning this year's audit. And we're already meeting with Mr. Gates tomorrow with respect to just getting our time schedules done. And then we will meet with the audit committee thereafter. The audit from last year was unqualified opinion. We had no findings on the federal side. No question costs on the federal side. We had some findings on the state side as we did the prior year, and they were basically procedural in nature, no question costs on that side either. During that course of the year, we just got through an audit of our audit by the Office of Inspector General. We had two people down here for about 3 days in June or July going through our 04 report. They found nothing. And now they're almost finished with the 05 report. From what I can tell, there's not anything there either. So everything looks good, which is good for me because it was a relief off of my mind. But the only comment that I had with respect to the management letter, and you will find that on a small report, was we had a concern when we saw the refunding, when there was some, let's see right here real quick, the limited tax refunding bond series of 05, of $21,420,000 in effect were used to defease two obligations, the county's 1996A and B bonds, as well as the 2000 certificates of obligation. This was a very complex type of entity or entry. But what happened was that these monies were, because they were used to pay off these other three issues, we had reserves going back and forth and whatnot, and somewhat confusing. We were concerned that we were making sure, in effect, by bringing this to everybody's attention, that we didn't want the county to get into a situation whereby you either violated a bond covenant or would violate a bond covenant or didn't act according to the agreements or anything of that nature. So we had some questions, 1 through 5. Was it permissible to utilize, for example, the reserves to help pay one bond to the other? We had a question on the reserve requirement. We had other issues about additional reserve funds currently. How was that going to be taking place? We had the interlocal agreements. Were they going to have to be revised? And were you going to have to still comply with the 140% requirement? What the county did and the audit committee did basically is that you basically sought counsel, and you did get a resolution passed. I presume that resolution was passed earlier with respect to that. And it just kind of cleaned it up, making sure that you had all your I's dotted and your T's crossed and whatnot. And then we met again with the audit committee, and to our satisfaction, I'm okay with it, and I understand from that standpoint how that's going to be treated, and so I should not have this comment next year. And that was the extent of it. I didn't have any other comments to go with the audit committee with, and but again, that was pretty much it in a nutshell. But again, this was the first year for the audit committee. I commend them. It's not an easy thing to come from where you are, your accounts payable or in your law practice or whatever, and come before a bunch of auditors that speak Greek and sit there and try to understand financial statements that are 200 some odd pages long. But that's what their purpose is. But the only other recommendation I have, and I have not shared this with the audit committee, is one of the key elements to that audit committee should be your financial officer. And that officer is Mark Yates. I think he needs to be on that committee, or he needs to be there at the meetings. Simply because if there are issues that either I can't answer because I don't work here, or they can't answer because they don't have the expertise. He needs to be there to make sure that that does happen, and it will facilitate that. And that's my recommendation.
Would it also benefit us perhaps to have the audit committee make a report to us after each meeting y'all have to kind of keep us in the loop as to where we're going?
That would be very good. I mean,
I would appreciate that.
sure. The audit
That way
committees
we
can
know
take
what
over.
the problems coming up and what they are. and how they're
Minutes
solved.
would be good. Of the meetings.
I was gonna say, just email a report to us would be beneficial.
Well, I think it'd be good for the public to hear it also if it's.
And any concerns or whatever, that's their out. I mean, they can go to an audit, they know there's an audit committee or finance committee, and they can go to that committee and in fact, either voice concerns or whatever else to allow the auditors, the external auditors, to decide whether or not to explore or not to explore. That's your out. So,
Mr. Barrett, I noticed that in your management letter, you did not at all discuss our fund balances.
But I did in committee.
Well,
I did do it on.
But again, though, I mean, would it not something that you would have touched on? We've already addressed the issue through allocating some money into our fund balance, but, you know, we didn't do that before this came out. Would it not be appropriate for you to address that issue in your management letter?
Management letters are basically, are suggestions, I guess, or comments that we
Right.
might have had with respect to, here's a suggestion of what to do. Fund balances are really your control. If I saw that the fund balance was zero or going down below, or if there was excessive spending and a pattern of excessive spending that would eventually lead to a deficit that would cause me concern about the going concern of the county, then I would certainly have mentioned it either there or a report condition. That is a judgment call. I'm not really sure, though, that...
Well, I know that historically, at least in the time I've been here, I've seen that balance decline on a yearly basis significantly over the last 4 years. And, you know, I would have thought that that would have been something that would have been brought to my attention by, you know, you doing the audit.
Well, I think that would have been brought to your attention if we had sped up the process a little bit and maybe brought these financial statements to your attention sooner. Because generally, when the auditor comes before you, even though the audit committee may come up here and say, we recommend that this be adopted, it is my position as an auditor, which I have never done before you all, is to come up here and actually go over these financial statements and look at not only the letter transmittal that Mark has prepared, but also the MD&A, which is the management discussion analysis, which clearly shows what has transpired over the last years or whatever, and go into that in depth if needed. That's where I bring it to your attention orally, not necessarily in written format.
Well, I appreciate you being here in person and giving us your report.
Sure.
Well, I figured that if there were any problems, they would be under recommendations.
Right, and that's very
Whatever.
hard. Right. I mean, it's very hard for me to say, well, your fund balance is going down, do something about it. Well, you have. I mean, one thing in particular, I remember that by the time that we issued our audit report, there was a question about, I guess it was the federal funding of the jails or monies that were coming in from that. And it could be at that point that fund balance that we were showing here, that you're showing here, actually is probably more conservative than it really was. That there was actually a little bit more in there because the monies didn't come in subsequent to year end. Whether or not that should have been allocated or been accounted for in the prior year, that's a good call question because of the timeline. But it's in there now. And I do know that there's been some additional monies that have been pushed in there in the current year. My concern was, and I made it clear to the audit committee at the time, is that yes, you have monies that you've replenished your general fund with, but you need to be careful in that, you know, it's like anything else. You have assets out there that you can convert back into cash and into general fund balance, but sometimes they run out. So unless you either control the expenditure portion of it or increase revenues on the other side, you're going to end up with the same problem somewhere down the road again. So you just need to be good stewards of it, and they need to be advising you as far as how that is going progressively during the year.
Thank you.
All right, I have one more question, Judge. Oh, Mr. Barrera. Ideally, when would be a good time for you to be here to present this report in the course of doing the audit? Would it be like, I mean, you do other counties, right?
Yeah, generally speaking, the city of Brownsville, for example, we are there generally in the first part of May. April, May, somewhere in there. If we can get April done, fine. The problem with April with us, obviously, is being accountants,
April 15th, we're in rush after that, and we need about a week to recharge our batteries. At the same time, by the time you get this massive report out and submitted, and then of course getting back with everybody on the audit committee, trying to get schedules together. That's the reason why we'd like to get that done by April 30th, and then come in here sometime in May and get it presented to me. Yeah.
Thank you. So that's probably what we should look forward to.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Motion to acknowledge. Second by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion on the rates? With your nine.
Aye.
Motion carries. There was a public comment registration form filled out. I'm sorry, Roger, I didn't see. I saw it and then I just.
That's okay. Thank you. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I just wanted to come before you all and let you know that we are going to be holding a voter registration drive this coming Saturday. It's going to be at Sunrise Mall. It's going to be in the lobby of in front of JCPenney's. Also, wanted to also let you all know that we're going to stay open on the last day of to register to vote for the November general election. We're going to stay open until 7 o'clock in the evening, past 5 o'clock, to allow some of these volunteer deputy registrars to bring in their applications and to allow the public to come in. Those who have not registered and are eligible to register to vote in the November election to come in and register.
What date is the last day?
It's October the 10th. It's the last day to register to vote. It's on a Tuesday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Villalobos, I see you standing there. Do you have something on the agenda?
Commissioner, I have something on the consent. I just wanted to be here in case you had some questions, because there was a large expenditure.
Consideration and approval of the Cameron County District Attorney's Office to purchase tactical SWAT, special weapons, and tactical supplies and weapons from GP distributors. Cigarros, anybody have any issues on that?
I'll make the motion.
I wasn't aware that you had a SWAT team.
Well, it's labeled SWAT, but what it is the vests and the guns that we have to replace every so often. The vests are all outdated. They were from our old Cameron County Drug Task Force way of operating. They've been outdated. If somebody would get injured because of the vests, we could be held liable because of it, because they're supposed to be replaced every so often. So we're replacing them all at once. We're getting rid of all the old gear. The weapons they're not matching, so if they get into a situation where they need to rely on each other's bullets or magazines, there's going to be a problem with that as well. So what we're doing is trying to update it all at one time. That is why the expenditure is what it is, rather than trying to piecemeal it, which had been the process in the past.
And so I guess the term SWAT is what's got me kind of wondering.
Right, it's not a SWAT team.
It's really not a SWAT team that's been trained in SWAT tactics.
It's just that the supplies are identified like that.
That's correct.
Motion for approval.
Is there a second?
I had the same concern as this. We have another SWAT team.
There's a motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Benavides. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by state and I.
Aye.
Thank you.
The way that word is used is that it's an adjective describing the supplies.
Well, then they should have capital all the letters in it. SWAT, because SWAT capitalized.
Just not a big grammar lesson.
Sheriff, did you have something?
It's on the consent agenda, which is on the linebacker, just in case you all have any questions.
Which number?
The more money, the better.
19.
Yeah, we're gonna get some money from the
19.
state, and that's how we used it in the past, and that's what we're supposed to use it.
Okay, do I have a motion to?
I'll second that, but I would like to ask a question.
Sure. Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Garcia.
Again, though, I think last year you were before us, and I've heard different stories on how the money was utilized, but in the utilization of this money, I know we've had some discussions, Sheriff, are we utilizing some of these funds to alert illegal aliens to other agencies? Do we arrest them? Do we what is the process we use by having this operation going on in this county?
No, first of all, I do have a policy concerning illegal aliens. We are not federal officers that we can enforce the immigration law. Basically, what linebacker has to do with state laws, the kind of crimes that are committed here. What it allows us to do is to have more people out in the field, allows to buy the vehicles so that these people can drive. For example, you take Boca Chica Beach, okay? That's an isolated area. Through the linebacker grant, we're able to buy pickups. We can patrol that area. 281, which is a high corridor for narcotics and what have you. We're able to put some more people out there patrolling. As a matter of fact, because of the linebacker, we've been able to seize quite a bit of money, over $200,000, $154,000 in cash at one time, and other catch some money in the process. We have been able to, at the present time, it slips me, at least a couple of 100 pounds of cocaine and marijuana, possibly anywhere about maybe 2 tons of marijuana. That's what linebacker is all about.
So you're following your local policy and your local
Right,
policies?
so we do have a written policy for the officers as they do that. Do we assist our law enforcement agencies? By all means. That's part of our job. We do, Border Patrol is very good to us. They help us in all times. We do the same thing. But that goes also with the Brownsville PD, with the constables, with the Harlingen PD. That's what it is.
Well, I think it's very specific here. It says specifically for equipment, overtime enforcement, hours, and employment of personnel. And it goes on to say it's not to supplant the existing physical ones.
That's right. And we have some of that money too for overtime, and we do have some money. This time we saved some money aside to give some of the overtime to the constables. I think we said about $50,000 to help them out and to patrol extra hours as far as that goes. But to answer your question, no, that's got nothing to do with us.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I mean, you have to recognize that what the policy is today. You know, I testified before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security opposition. What the policy is that there's been a merging of philosophy between the federal and state government with respect to the border on immigration issues and homeland security issues. And because if you're in the process of enforcing the immigration laws at the border, you are naturally also securing the border against anyone that comes in, whether they're coming in violating the immigration laws or they're coming in to do some bad. And so the philosophy and the thought that is going on right now is that you need more law enforcement people there to help ensure that the border is secure. And that's where the local law enforcement agencies come into play. And that's why this funding happens is to give the Sheriff Department more resources to help secure the border. Securing the border means making sure that people are not coming into the United States to violate the state laws of the United States. And obviously they're not going to turn their back if they're violating federal laws. And that's what it's all about. So it's hard to separate these issues. It's clearly the philosophy that you need to have local law enforcement agencies involved in securing the border because they know their community, they know the people that are there, they know who's out there and who's from here, who's not from here, and can help the federal law enforcement agencies better identify those people who present a potential risk to the citizens of the United States. And so that's what this is all about. And I think that's the way the sheriff, in my conversations with him and Gus and the other people that are at the Sheriff Department, that's the way they're implementing it. They're not there to enforce immigration laws, rather they're to ensure that the border is secure.
Well, that's correct, Judge. And the terrorist is one of the things that we have in mind as far as that goes. And the violence that is happening across, and it sometimes will filter right here. And we'll look at the read of the paper. We can see, unfortunately, in Nuevo Laredo and the problems that are now crossing over to Laredo, and we're trying to prevent that as one of the reasons. Now, as far as many times that we help the Border Patrol, by all means, and I'll give you a couple of instances as far as that goes. I got a call one Sunday morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning where the officer was responding to a call in Coast, Texas, where somebody was banging on an 18-wheel trailer. Well, the officer went out there, they opened it up, they had 4 illegals, had been there for 48 hours. No water, no food, using the place there as a facility for a restroom, And as far as that goes, they're dehydrated. Of course, we call the Border Patrol, that is their job, so we call them. Now, on another case, we called where there was 50 illegals all housed together in Harlingen in a one-bedroom apartment. And of course, they called them because there was a lot of problems there. They were making too much noises or what have you, so we respond to those calls. And when that comes up, sure, we take it into our own, and we call whenever we need to do. So we call the proper agencies, whatever it deems necessary at the time. Now, I hope I answered your question, Commissioner.
Well, my question is answered because you're not out there targeting,
No, sir.
Mexico license plates on the road, for example,
Oh.
which has been one of the concerns that has come up in the past by some individuals, which is occurring in other counties, where they will do roadblocks and stop everybody with, a Mexico license plate and do license checks. They do, insurance checks and things of that sort, which targets that traffic from coming in totally, but that's not what you're doing with your effort.
No, that's not at all. That's entirely different than what we're doing. Okay.
And it was very clear in your background information.
Yeah, we could make the motion to approve all the consent items that can almost and then we can pick up anything else.
Unless there's somebody has any questions.
Yeah. You want to make that motion then, Commissioner?
I will.
I'll second that.
All right, and is there any other issues, and travel, any other questions on any of those issues?
What's 24?
Which one?
24.
That's, the judge is asking to place an item on the agenda where I would serve on the Employee Health and Benefits Committee without a stipend.
Without a stipend,
No, that was going to be my question.
without no stipend.
Is the committee as it exists today not good enough?
Well, I think it's important to have somebody from the county judge's staff on there.
I mean, I'm just, all due respect to Mr. Villarreal back there, I mean, we've had the committee operational. Of course, I must add to that to this day, I have not gotten minutes from a single meeting, which I've requested about 6 months ago, but that's maybe, okay. I appreciate, maybe if that's taken care of, I have no problem with that, Judge, okay?
Okay, any other questions?
Well, I had, on that talk with that committee, when will that committee have new members?
Well, whenever you all request it, I'll put it on the agenda and we'll put it on anytime you all.
Well, I think at least on an annual basis.
Selected by you all, so we can put it on.
No, but I think it should be done on an annual basis. I don't know when the last one was.
All right. On number 33, and maybe if Pete Sepulveda is here, what like the ultimate taco, or what is this, the ultimate, I just want a definition of ultimate.
Yeah, so we were talking about doing the project in different phases. The ultimate phase is to go to the middle of the bridge and get Mexico to do their portion.
Middle of the river.
Right, middle of the river, right.
So basically, this is what I asked for.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have authority, Cameron County staff has authority to start the process of building a new span for the Los Tomates Bridge, yes?
Right, and
Do everything necessary to get us to that point.
new span?
While at the same time, proceeding forward with your plan with respect to the trucks.
immediate,
Right. That's what I had asked for, because we've never,
Begin the process of a whole new bridge.
Right.
Issue
A new bridge.
required with Mexico.
adjacent to Los Tomates, which is a new span.
Another bridge.
Well, the process of adding this adjoining, although it doesn't adjoin, this parallel span to the Los Tomates Bridge, which is going to require some coordination with Mexico and some environmental issues.
Well, we had approved last time we met an additional lane to the existing span, right?
Well, that's working parallel.
A parallel separation.
It's gonna be,
Separated next to
Lane
it,
bridge, right,
right next to it.
right, exactly.
but you're working on
No,
that.
it's the same one.
But this is the same one, but goes all the way across.
So in other words, now we're gonna start coordinating with Mexico and get Mexico into the picture so that they can do their half of the bridge and we'll do our half. But the first, we're gonna go phase by phase. So the first phase will be to build that 700-foot section, 4-lane bridge. And then while we're doing that, concurrently, we're gonna be working with Mexico and trying to do the ultimate, which is, the entire bridge from US to Mexico.
So you're working on both projects?
Right.
That's what you're doing?
The idea to get phase
At
one
the same
started is so that we can solve the immediate problem that we have.
Right, which is a backup that's occurring.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
But I feel that it's important that we start the process, that we formalize the process of the second span, the second bridge adjacent to those officers now, so that we can start moving on that and make sure that there's no question whether or not we have, staff has the authority to, for example, start putting together plans to do that, making the presentations. We have binational conference, when?
On or about the week of October 16th.
Okay, and on October 16th, that's going to be in Monterrey, where is it? In Monterrey. So we want to have all that in place so that we can start that dialogue with Mexico and start the permit process as well to do all of that. And I just think it's important. I mean, I think it's a temporary fix to build this additional lane, the 700-foot lane. We really need to work towards that final bridge, that final goal of building a new bridge adjacent to it as a truck bridge. In light of everything that's going on right now, TxDOT's efforts to build an East Loop truck
To the port and
lane road navigation district. All that needs to be working side by side, and so I wanted to make sure we were heading in that direction.
Richard, is this legally okay? The way it's written?
I haven't reviewed it. You mean the agenda?
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with the agenda.
Okay.
Or you mean the agenda item?
The number 33. Ultimate bridge expansion to me did not mean another span, but if that's why I wanted definition.
That's what it was intended to be.
Yeah, when we did the schematics for the phase 1 and 2, we called it the ultimate sections all the way to the middle of the river.
And you've answered my
It had
question.
been referred to as such.
You've answered my
I
question.
have a motion before.
Is there any other questions on the consent agenda?
On number 34, Judge, Commissioners, we will get the right-of-way map probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. This is an off-system project with TxDOT, and the right-of-way for this project was approved by the court a couple of years ago for the project roadmap. And so TxDOT is not going to give us a release to start the right-of-way acquisition process, because it's an off-system project. TxDOT has plans to let the projects in June of '07. There's 18 parcels that need to be acquired. And in an effort to try and get the 18 parcels acquired by that time, by June of '07, we really need to begin the process now. In December, we'll have a public hearing, and in January, hopefully get a finding of no significant impact. Normally, the way we do TxDOT projects is we do not begin the right-of-way acquisition process until we have a finding of no significant impact, because there is a risk that if during the public hearing process of the environmental assessment, any changes are made to the alignment of the road, well then, there's risk that you might go and acquire a right-of-way that you will not use the alignment changes. We feel that the alignment will not be impacted. And again, TxDOT is not going to give us a release. We're using local money. So I think, my recommendation to the court is that we go ahead and allow staff to start the right-of-way acquisition process, and so that we can try and stay in schedule with what TxDOT has, which is a June '07 letting.
If we're using local money, is any of it reimbursable by TxDOT?
No. TxDOT doesn't pay for construction and stuff.
How does TxDOT expect to, without us doing this ahead of time, how do they expect to be able to receive the funds and start construction in June of '07?
Well, they set their schedule, and, then it's up to us to try and maintain that schedule. And so it's 9 months from now through June of '07. For 18 parcels, it's doable. But if we wait and go through the normal TxDOT process, then it's not.
That's what I mean. It's kind of unfair of them to expect us to go through the normal process if they're going to do it in such a short time span. But most of the time, it would be reimbursable. This time it isn't, and I think that's the difference here.
Yeah, you're right, you know.
That was clear from the beginning.
If it were a non-citizen project, then we would not be released until January when we get the funds. But since, you know, and probably the reason why they set that schedule is because they know we have that flexibility. You know, we can start the process without getting the funds.
We've done extremely well in right-of-way acquisition for their projects,
And this project, through the EA process, they've done a lot of coordination, or early coordination with the property owners already. So, you know, hopefully, you know, we can do that within the 9-month time
and they've
period.
agreed to the new construction costs.
Yes.
Okay, good.
All of that has been approved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion and a second to approve the consent and travel items. Any further discussion?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right, budget amendments, line item transfers and or salary schedule. Any questions?
We have any additions?
Yes, we have motion.
Anything else? I'll make the motion.
Motion by
Second.
Commissioner, okay, second by Commissioner Mayo. Any further discussion?
I thought this was why the DA was here for, to
That was it?
Sir?
No, the budget amendment for him to actually purchase that equipment is here. Also, the salary schedules for the district court reporters, studied into the order that was presented last week.
And you found the money?
Within their budget. Only 2 pages less.
Okay.
When's that effective?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes for August 15th, regular meeting.
I'm ready.
Motion by Commissioner Tamao, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Claims. So moved.
Do you have any additional? Mark?
You had 3 additional claims. Check number 166388, payable to election systems and software, in the amount of $258,625. This purchases 25 auto marks and 25 M100 devices. I think it completes the purchases through the HAVA grant. We made an application to the Secretary of State for reimbursement. We want to make sure that we get the software vendor, the elections hardware vendor, their funds as quick as possible so to ensure their cooperation on the upcoming elections. So check number 166389 is a loan from Fund 6 to Fund 9. And that provides temporary working capital until the grant comes in from the state. It should take a couple of weeks.
How long?
We're expecting 2 weeks.
What kind of feedback have we got from the state secretary's office on that grant being approved?
Well, the grant is a continual part of the HAVA award. This is the final portion, and it completes the $1,277,000 purchase.
They haven't run out of money.
Well, this completes it. So, if we're going to purchase any more additional equipment through this particular program, we have to apply for new funds, or be awarded new funds. And then, the last check is 166,390, the amount of $65. We sold a motorcycle at an auction that had out-of-state plates, and we need to get title information from out-of-state. So that's what this $65 does. Those go to the Texas Department of Transportation. So
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, second by Commissioner Tamao. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carries. On my attention on warrant number 00166129, the Living Minds Water District and Southwest Key Program, warrant number 00166223. Okay, item number 8. Did you have something, Tony? Right. 17 and 18, consideration and approval, selection and approval of furniture for municipal annex building as per Texas Building and Procurement Commission, TXMAS, TXMAS state purchasing contract, and 18 is considerate, well, or let's take up 17.
Judge, Commissioners, you should also have pricing sheet with the agenda for recommended furniture for the Port Isabel Annex location. We've met with all departments as well as Remy and Javier, reviewed the furniture as requested, and this is the recommendation of the group.
Has there been any resolution on the location of the juvenile probation person desk other than out in the parking lot?
Well, there's an issue,
Side.
there's an issue there in terms of space, and I talked to the sheriff, and the sheriff needs some space there as well. Given the amount of presence that they have out there, they need to have space there. And I just think that the sheriff department's got to take precedence there. I mean, if the sheriff can control that space, if he wants to loan it occasionally to the juvenile probation department, when they resort in.
Juvenile probation doesn't have any space yet. That's the problem. Adult probation has a small area.
When the building was originally being, the operation plan for the building and how it was going to be used, the office, which is known as A127, was supposed to be housing both the juvenile probation officer as well as the adult probation officer, because it was based on accounts from individuals in the building, and from, at the time, I assume there was an agreement between the two agencies that they could do scheduling that wouldn't allow the conflict of having juveniles and adult probationers being in the same office or being within inside of each other. It's our understanding that the juvenile probation officer does a lot of those visits on the campuses, and so actually doesn't bring people to an office to sit down in the same sort of environment. And so we figured that the conflict could be resolved through scheduling rather than having to create another building space, which was the original intent. But now
Where do you
there's-
put the sheriff department?
well, there's an office that was A25, which had originally been set aside for the TABC and the DPS, which is right next to us.
So we can put the sheriff there?
Yeah, if the sheriff's office is going to be utilizing the space, the A125, I don't think there's a problem with that. It's just during spring break when TABC needs to, they store their bikes and.
But they can coordinate that.
Yeah,
with the
that's
sheriff.
In fact, no, we coordinated with the.
They can take care of that.
And there's a storage space there for that.
Yeah, there's a A126 was set aside specifically for that.
Okay. So as long as we assign A25 to the sheriff, then he can work with TABC, then they work together all the time on when they need to use it.
Yes. So, yeah, we'll have to come back and recommend some desks for that, or maybe possibly look and build in some wall units to maximize the space.
Part of the issue will be TABC will be wanting to be there during spring break along with DPS, and that's certainly when the sheriff needs to be there. So with one desk and 3 different agencies, it'll be fun.
Well, we can also work time in the field.
We can try to maximize the space with
They can
the wall
coordinate.
units and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's about maximizing the space, it's about having someone control that office, and the other office and agencies need to go to the sheriff to work, coordinating and using them. I think that's the appropriate way to do it. I don't think you should have 3 agencies sharing one office. It's a sheriff's office, and when they want to use it, they just need to
Coordinate.
with him, and that's it.
Simple.
Yeah, it's not complicated things.
Yeah, we're
And so
recommending.
the other space for the adult probation department is what?
It's,
Which number is that?
that's A27, which is up against the wall. There's the extra dust that's kind of floating out there.
So what do you, so they don't want to share that because they say they can't.
They've indicated that they can't, but I think it's a matter of scheduling that they can resolve their conflict.
Well, can I have a comment on that? I think they can. Of course they can. They can share that space if they coordinate with one another, because the issue is, can you have juveniles where there are adults at? No, you can't. But if on a certain days, it's
Matter of
going to be used
scheduling.
by the adult probation department, then the juvenile probation department will not use it on that day, and vice versa. And that's really easy to do, you know? You put a schedule in there and you say, on this day you use it, and on this day we use it. Y ahí se acaba.
What regard is juvenile clouds usually here about 20% of the time.
So there shouldn't be a lot of.
One day out of 5 days, I think that's 20%. We're getting Wednesdays.
So we got this figured out, we're gonna move the desk into the building.
Yeah, the little desk that's floating is back into that corner, and then we'll work with Karen.
Everybody doesn't need their own office, they just coordinate.
So your recommendation is option B, right?
Yes, sir.
Move to approve.
Second,
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Ryan, for discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 18, consideration and approval of substantial completion of the Portisville Annex Building. Who's handling that?
Pete,
The recommendation from the architect is for approval.
Is there a motion on that?
Judge, I would like to add, I don't think, they're entirely, the architect and the contractor both sign off. I think that the county judge should not sign off.
Subject to both of them signing off. Yes?
Can it be done that way?
Yes.
Judge is allowed-
Huh?
The judge is allowed signature.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, motion by Commissioner Bennett, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Eight, consideration and authorization to hold public hearing regarding the proposed tax rate for 2006-2007 fiscal year. Motion to go to public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now on to public hearing.
Judge and Commissioners, this is the second public hearing as required by statute. I went ahead and included in the packet the copies of the notices. Since there was a question on the effective tax rate, that was included there, the notice for the public hearings, and then also a copy of the notice that will run on Sunday, informing the public that the Commissioners Court is scheduled to vote on the tax rate on September 19th. That is from the public hearing.
Any comments from anyone in the public?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. 9, discussion regarding fiscal year 2006-2007 budget and tax rate.
Judge and Commissioners, there wasn't anything included in your packets as of Friday. Not a whole lot had changed. I spoke with the auditor this morning, and in reviewing the revenues, we're almost at the point of achieving the 3% across the board increase for the county employees due to the fact of the, I guess, the continued population of the federal inmates. Last week they were at 290, and I believe right now the auditor he hasn't forwarded the change to me yet, but that he is considering certifying it at 275 average daily inmate populations for this up to this point, which will almost get us to the 3%. So we're still reviewing the revenues, and hopefully to have sufficient to actually address some of the requests as far as additional personnel by the various county departments. The September the 19th will be the same date when the court addresses the tax rate as for the final adoption of the budget. Next week, on the 12th, everything should be finalized, and we should know exactly what's available and what can be done as far as any additional staffing or the requests that have been submitted to the court by the various county departments.
I was listening to the news last night, and the news commentator from, I forget whether it's Channel 4 or 5, stated that based on our budget timeline, that we were scheduled to have a meeting this coming Friday. Are you familiar with the meeting this coming Friday?
You know, it was posted on the internet. Today's meeting was posted for Friday.
Oh, is that
On the internet.
So they just
Yeah.
wrote that? Okay.
So probably where they read it.
Because we had.
But
a
they had
meeting
today's
last
date
night,
on it.
But it wasn't anything to do with budget.
It said Friday, September the 5th.
I heard the same thing from
Yeah.
somebody, I don't know who.
Yeah, it's on the internet. It's Friday, September the 5th. Yeah.
And now that there's no, as far as the budget, Friday
that's
meeting,
fine.
so the next,
We need a meeting.
about Tuesdays, no. And next week, on the 12th, the grievance committee hearings are to be held, and the court would take action on that on the 12th also.
They're going to be held on the 12th.
Yes.
Then it would be prior to our meeting.
Has that been said? I think we're talking about maybe possibly doing it on the 11th.
Yeah, we're,
in the evening.
we're not sure exactly how many grievances we're going to have, and if we have a significant number, then we were thinking about holding it on the Monday evening before the 11th Commissioners Court meeting or the 12th. Because that might be easier to get people to serve, and plus it keeps us from having the time crunch of trying to get all the action taken before the Commissioners Court meeting.
And some of those folks might find it easier to come in that evening.
In the evenings, it probably would be, because one of our biggest hangs up is, you know, my boss won't let me out, or will you give me a letter from my boss? Will you pay me? That was one. That's just the nature of it. So we're waiting to see what kind of response we get from the elected officials to see how big the...
Yeah, today should be the deadline.
Today is the deadline for the response. How many have you had to today?
As far as I know, I've only seen 2, which would mean we'd probably move it to Tuesday morning. If that was it.
Yeah, wait until the timeline is over.
Move to acknowledge discussion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rivera, second by Commissioner Tamayo for discussion. All those in favor, signal by state and I.
Aye.
Motion carried. And that, Remy, does it have to, does that meeting on Tuesday have to be at 9:30?
The Commissioners Court meeting?
No.
I have to check the,
We have a calendar on we're posting on.
right, the only issue I have to verify, because
I mean, I don't have
We're
a
not going to
problem.
take any action on the tax rate or the budget, but in voting on the grievance committee's recommendations, I need to check and see if it has to be done at a regular meeting or
I
if
may
it's
not
on a
be
special.
here Tuesday morning.
That's the only thing I
And
need to
Monday
check.
night for that matter. Okay, all right, well, we'll see.
If you're not here, then you can't be accused of steering the committee. Pete can do that for you.
They're like looking for stuff, you know, and then thinking of stuff that would go, but that's nothing new. All right. Thank you for that
I
comment.
guess you can always call it, Judge.
All right, where are we at? Is there a
9.
motion to acknowledge discussion on number 9?
So moved.
So,
We already seconded.
On the discussion?
yeah,
You already voted.
we voted.
Yeah.
We did.
We did?
Okay, 10, consideration and possible action regarding hiring temporary help to survey Laguna Heights for the lighting project. Yes, sir?
Judge and Commissioners, this item is to hire a person. We found out last week that we need to conduct a survey in Par Laguna Heights that wasn't previously surveyed for our street lighting project in order to get the state grant funds. We also need to check the households to make sure they're single or multifamily households or that the addresses are correct. In case we go and proceed with the project and we do billing, we have to make sure our data is correct before we proceed with that, to have that all lined up. So we'd like to hire somebody for a few days to go out and go door to door. The survey should be door to door. I spoke with Javier about it. It's a few $100s. Did you guys?
I think I have budget and even in my account.
It'll be less than $1,000.
And this is part of the requirement of the grant.
Yes, yes.
Second, so we need to remember this when we start doing Cameron Park.
Yes, and this man, or whoever we get, could do that too, I'm sure.
Need somebody that is really fond of dogs.
We'll have to find somebody that knows the area or not likes going here. Maybe get some
The
mates.
dog's taken care of in Cameron Park, don't worry about that.
Those are not dogs, man. They're small horses, man.
There's a motion and a second.
Fangs. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
11, consideration authorization to reclassification of the court administrator for family court.
Who has that?
That's Judge Martinez's request. What he's requesting, when we assign a court administrator, we assign a court administrator slot that is not classified as a court administrator slot. And so what he wants us to do is classify as a court court administrator's slot, the same as district judges have, with the commensurate salary.
Are the duties about the same?
They're exactly the same, yeah.
So then we should.
We have budgeted money.
So what do we do on the money side, though?
Yeah.
Justification to not make it an administrator's slot, other than monetary justification.
Correct. Yeah, we have 2 pay periods left in the year. Within the district course budget, though, there are not funds available to do it. I wound up sweeping everything in order to do the court reporters issue this past week.
But I thought we hadn't approved that.
We did all of them.
We just did. That was effective today, right?
Correct, it would be
Under the
effective
budget
today.
amendment.
For the salary schedule and the budget amendment was done earlier. It wouldn't affect, I can bring back a budget amendment for next week, because the payroll for this week, it wouldn't affect that, it would actually affect the next 2 payrolls. So it would be effective whenever.
Could we do it subject to the first of the new budget year?
Yes, again, that could be done, just done it within the,
We don't want to define this year's.
within the budget. Okay, right,
You want to
Want that
motion?
first? Yeah, second.
okay.
That's a good
Motion by
idea.
Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Tamayo. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I only have one question. Can a judge put an item on the agenda? I asked Richard, anybody?
Well, actually, the judge didn't put it on the agenda. I mean, it was put on by the Commissioner's Court at his request.
Okay.
Just wondering, so the motion is to approve it, the rent reclassification to effect October 1.
October 1, which isn't that far off.
All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
13, consideration possible adoption of nuisance abatement procedures under section 343.021 in conformity with chapter 343 of the Texas Health and Safety Code.
Please table it, Judge.
Move to table.
Second.
By Commissioner- What is this anyway, by the way? I know you want to table it, but can you tell me what it's about?
This is in connection with abatement of nuisance ordinances and then drafted an ordinance. Grace requested us to look at drafting a nuisance, and it is doable, but we're in the process of doing it. It's not ready yet.
That still didn't
We
answer.
have authority to do that?
Yeah.
Didn't answer the motion.
What is a nuisance? I think it's
What is a nuisance? Talking about abandoned houses mainly.
abandoned houses, abandoned cars.
Empty lots with
Empty lots.
all kinds of stuff.
Should have done something like this.
A long time ago,
I'm
yeah.
not sure about the empty lots, but the abandoned houses.
When do you think you'll have it?
Bruce is the one that's been working on this. I could get him in there to maybe more precisely answer your question.
Well,
What's
I think he said by next week he would probably have something.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, I was gonna ask for the timeline, because that's a big problem, so I'm glad that it's getting done.
All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Matter is tabled. Item number 14, consideration and action regarding request for proposal for administration of Cameron County Health Plan including preferred provider aggregate stop loss administration, EAP. Just to go out for proposals, right?
14, yes.
Yeah, is there a motion on that?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garcia for discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 15, consideration of possible action regarding the issuance of request for qualifications for acquiring services for the Cameron County Health Plan proposals. We put this on the agenda because we want to have, to hire someone to advise us on this issue. We've always had, what's his name? Switman, but I understand he may have some conflicts of interest in this time around to be analyzing proposals. So we want to just put it out there and hire somebody that will help us, advise us on what plan best meets the needs of Cameron County and its employees. So
I can understand that, but I'm confused at the language of the agenda item. To me, it sounds like we're going to go out for a request for qualifications for someone to tell us how to acquire services through the request of proposals, which is maybe a little redundant. except we're using qualifications and proposals.
Remy, did you inartfully draft this?
Without question is one of the worst group wordings I've ever put together outside of that sentence.
The intent is to go out for proposals, to hire somebody to help us analyze the proposals that are being submitted for our health plan.
This is for request for qualifications for
Yes.
less than 25,000.
Right.
We're looking for someone to, when we get requests for proposals in, we're looking for someone to go over those and review them and then make a recommendation to us. Is that what we're talking about?
I think
Penalize.
the insurance.
With the insurance committee.
To make a recommendation.
And help understand the language and the nomenclature and all this other stuff that goes on.
Right, and how it affects the bottom lines and stuff.
After amending the wording of the agenda item, I make a motion that we approve it.
There are motions, second, any further discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 16, consideration and approval of a resolution of the Commissioners Court of the County of Cameron, Texas, authorizing a grant application for the Office of Rural Community Affairs, number 7, 2008, Texas Community Development Program, Community Development Fund, and authorizing the county judge to act as a county representative in all matters dealing with the concentration in 2007-2008 Texas Community Development Program.
So moved for
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is that it on the, is there any supplemental items? Yes. No. Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
By Commissioner Johnson. Second. Commissioner Garcia, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. We are now in executive session pursuant to
Aye. We're in open session.
items 43, A, B, C, and D. I'm sorry, A, B, and C. Move to table. Second. And those are, A is on the Nancy Building, B is on the West Round, C is on the right-of-way on Green Meadow Road.
And there was no discussion.
And there was no discussion on any of those items. They're all issues regarding real acquisition of real property. D, 43D, possible action on deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel. I'm sorry, and it included D as well, or no?
No, we're doing D. We're doing D.
We're doing D?
Yeah.
Okay, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 147, Green Meadow Road in the precinct 4 area. Motion to authorize the acquisition of the parcel of land for the sum of $3,000.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 43E, possible action on deliberation regarding real property concerning the acquisition of parcel 137, Meadow Road in the precinct 4 number area. Motion to authorize the rejection of the counteroffer and to make a counteroffer and discuss in executive session.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 43F, possible action on deliberation regarding lease of land for right-of-way easement on property owned by Cameron County Free Trade Bridge. What's the action on that?
Move the table.
No, the F was, yes, it's moving it.
Motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries by any table. Item number 43G, possible action on approval of council concerning consent to National Guard entries upon property on the matter which a duty attorney of the governmental body under Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar consider conflict with this chapter. Motion to table by Commissioner Wood.
Second.
By Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All